understanding that you guys have got a game to play, what is the value in your estimation for the U of H as a university to have game day here and showcase some of the great things that are going on?
Well, number one, they're coming because the basketball program has had great success, and we've been really good this year. That's why they're here. It's always a compliment, star in your feather, if ESPN wants to come to your campus and highlight your basketball program. Now, because of that, I think it's a tremendous infomercial for everything associated with the basketball program. The university, the city, the Fertitta Center, our students, our passion, all the pomp and circumstance that makes college basketball the great game that it is. The fact that they chose our program, and Iowa State's already had one too. So you've got two of the best basketball programs in the country. I think it's great for ESPN. I think it's great for college basketball. And it's a great opportunity for our program.
Thank you, Greg. We'll go to Chris Gardner with Houston Round Ball Review. Chris, please go ahead, sir.
Coach, are there similarities between the way Iowa State defends and you guys? And if so, what are they?
But their system is different. They trap from the baseline. We come from the middle. That's an obvious one. They help off the corners. We don't. That's another obvious one. I think the most important thing on defense is not your system. It's not how smart you are in putting your system together. It's how hard can you get your kids to compete. That trumps anybody's system. And I think that's what makes Iowa State special. Since with Monsilovich in the lineup, I think they're 18-1. And the one loss was when they were up 16 versus Auburn. So this is one of the top 3 or 4 teams in America. Their size, their schemes, but they got tough dudes, man. Lipsy, Gilbert, Jones, Monsilovich, all veterans. They've been there multiple years with TJ. But what Iowa State done is they've been really good in the portal. Teams that do good in the portal understand who will fit. I think character-wise, personality-wise, because your team's around each other. You can't bring anybody in that's going to tear at the seams of your culture. They have to embrace it and understand that the program's bigger than you. So be a part of something bigger than yourself. That's the only way that thing works. Then number 2 is their size. Jackson's 6'11", 280. Jefferson's 6'9", 250. Monsilovich is 6'9", 6'10", 225. So 6'11", 6'9", 6'9", 6'10", whatever up front. And then they bring in another 6'10", 260-pound kid off the bench in Chatfield. Jones is 6'4". Gilbert 6'4". I mean, they're just really long and really big. I think they were plus 15 on the boards the other night. Might have been Saturday against Cincinnati. So, this is the second year. We played them 3 times last year. Our first time playing them this year. But Iowa State's got a great team, but they also got one of the best programs in America.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. Joseph, please go ahead.
Good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Joseph.
Kelvin, just wanted to ask, when you, and I'm sure you don't hear this stuff, but when there's games going on TV and the announcers are talking, your program comes up in the conversation when they're talking about whether it's a Big 12 telecast or another conference, and they say that Houston leads the nation in playing hard, that kind of stuff. What does that mean to you when people realize and recognize that this is the style y'all been playing for so long, but it's very well documented and known that that's what they get when they play you?
How does that make me feel?
Yeah, how does that make you feel that's the identity that you've obviously stressed and developed, but that's what people think of
Yeah.
your program.
Well, when you're establishing that, it's not easy. Um, I think the thing that probably goes unnoticed about programs is the more you see them, the more you take them for granted. Especially if they're winning a lot, there's a tendency to not respect the things that they do good. So you wind up talking all the time about what they're not good at. So it's, when people see us only occasionally, they focus on what we do good. People see us all the time, it's just banter back and forth, how bad they are at this, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. So it's refreshing in a lot of ways, because I think that's the thing we've always wanted to be known for, Joseph, is we wanted the team to have that. And to be able to do that every year with our roster turning over, I think speaks volume about our staff and about how collectively our returning players embrace that part of our culture. They wind up doing as good a job of holding kids accountable in the summer and the fall before I get going full bore with them, and it makes it easier. And that's something that is very difficult to achieve one time with one team. But we've got something special here that I never take for granted.
Thank you, Joseph. We'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City Houston. Chris, please go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin.
Hey,
There
Chris.
hasn't been as much talk about LJ nationally. What his steadiness and his leadership? What has he meant, to this group and the success?
Yeah, I think number one is maturity. LJ's a grown man. Never has a bad practice, never has a bad film session, never has a bad team meeting. He's always locked in and focused. He's a tremendous ambassador for our both basketball program. His greatest influence, I think, comes from how he helps the new players and the freshmen. I think that's something he takes pride in. He was new last June, and Jamal did the same thing with him. Jamal and LJ were roommates, and now LJ and Milos are roommates. I told LJ, I said, I know why you get all these shots. You make sure that the point guard's always rooming with you, so you get your buddies on your side. It's obviously a joke. But I think his maturity, Chris, more than anything else, he's just he's a big time security blanket in a lot of ways. Obviously I make a lot of mistakes. But one of the mistakes I make probably more than I should in games is I probably don't substitute him enough. I don't get him out, but sometimes I rationalize the length of the timeouts and stoppage in play that he can keep going. But I should do a better job, and I'm going to try. My assistants are always on me about resting him more, so I got to get better at that.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Chris Gardner, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Coach, can you give us an update on Ramon?
No, I haven't talked to John about him lately, so I'm not sure. Um, um, I'm gonna try to get John on one of these podcast things or Zooms and that you guys ask him that stuff. I see him every day. He's um, practices, but obviously his hand's still bothering him.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Manav Gupta from College Roundball Review. Manav, please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Manav.
What are your thoughts on the front court with Jojo, Jaywan, and Javier and their strong shot blocking ability in terms of what they bring to the defense in that area?
Yeah, that's one of the strengths of our team is our rim protection. Seems like we're always top 5 in the nation in rim protection, our block percentage, the percentage of shots we block around the rim. But that's also a big part of our evaluation when we recruit. All 3 of those guys are extremely athletic. They're very long. They're really good second jump guys. And they're tough. I mean, they're tough kids. They have to go up against ton of really big body size guys. And big part of our success is those 3 guys. I love them to death. They're great kids, easy to coach, fun to be around, but they have a clear understanding of what their role is and they excel in it.
Thank you, Manav. We'll go back to Joseph Duarte, please. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, from your years of experience, is there a formula for this time of year and how you like to use players in terms of maybe dialing back minutes going into March, or is it because you need to keep them in a rhythm that it's not really, you're not able to do that? Or is there a way to gauge how much you like to play your regulars?
Well, we're 5. How many?
5 more regular season.
Okay, we got 5 more regular season games. So yeah, I don't think I think about doing that right now, Joseph. It doesn't cross my mind much about dialing guys back. You know, we're in a fight to get the highest seed we can possibly get, whatever it is. We're also in a fight to see if we can win the conference again. And I think if you're going to dial things back, it's probably going to be in practice and how much you do, which is one of the reasons why I did the Arizona trip the way it was. I didn't want it to be one trip. I wanted it to be 2 separate games. And sometimes if you play poorly in the first, you can let that game beat you twice. Especially if you're a coach and you're disappointed in your team's effort or your team's performance. That's going to carry over to the next game if you're not careful. But as soon as the Arizona game was over, we came back home, and that was Saturday. Got home fairly early. I think we got home by 8 o'clock. And then Sunday was a normal day. We did on Sunday here what we normally do after a road game. And then Monday, we always have position workouts before we leave, free throws, all that stuff. And then we'll watch film again before we leave to go get on the bus to go to the plane. And we did that again. So when we were preparing for Arizona State, it was a one game in our season that was our most important game, is we always treat the next game. I've had you guys ask me about trap games or worried about next game. That's not the way my mind works. I don't think that way. It doesn't matter whether we're playing Eggs Benedict Tech or Iowa State, our preparation for each game is compartmentalized to that game itself. I don't ever think ahead, ever. I never look ahead. I never start preparation ahead. I don't do that. Maybe it's because early in my career we weren't very good. So what was the good of looking at the next game? And I haven't changed. Most of my habits have remained the same. But I think practices obviously are cut way down this time of year. Kids spend an inordinate amount of time in Normatex, ice baths, contrasts, with the hot pool and the cold pool, John's magic hands, all that stuff. So I'm very conscious of what we're doing each day to make sure our kids have the best chance to succeed. That starts with fresh legs and a fresh mind.
Thank you, Joseph. We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Calvin, Iowa State's balance and all the different options they have. What kind of issues does that present to a defense?
Well, one of the things that makes them unique is their best scorer comes off the bench, and Curtis Jones. I mean, if he was on another team, he's a guy that could lead the nation in scoring, but he comes off the bench, and that just speaks volumes to how talented they are. All coaches know how to put their roster together, but I would say some are probably better than others. And I think TJ has been masterful in his roster management and getting exactly what he wants at each position. Taman Lipsey is the ultimate point guard defender, facilitator. Gilbert and Monsilovich have great size and shot making ability, and they're tough and they guard. I've just started the last couple of days watching Jefferson and Jackson, Chatfield, and Heisey. Those guys are all new. But they bring Curtis Jones off the bench. He's a guy that could be player of the year in this league easily. But their size, their size. I mean, they're huge. And they're so well coached, so good at what they want to do. And last year they were probably defense first, defense second, and then they just beat you with shot making. Now it's their pace. You can tell that there's been an emphasis on playing faster, get more possessions. But they're still tough defensively, great offensive rebounding team. So when you prepare for a top 10 team, you're fighting a lot of battles in there.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Randy McElvoy from KPRC TV. Randy, go ahead.
Morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Randy.
Want to ask you about fans have obviously got a chance to see Jaywan Roberts play for a long time. He's won so many games. I want to ask you what it's been like for you to get to coach him, and what area of his game have you seen the most growth during his time here at U of H?
Well, my experience in coaching Jaywan is many and varied. When you see a young man basically every day of his life for 6 years, you think you know him. But he always finds a way to surprise me. I think it was either on the plane or the bus. It's we were a little bit late getting out of Tempe the other night. I'm not even sure where we flew out of. Mesa. I'm not sure where we flew out of, but when we got on the plane, they told us that we weren't going to be able to get to Houston. I felt at first they said it was a shortage of personnel, FAA, something. We couldn't fly into the airport. They said we're going to have to go to College Station. Of course, my first response was, "What's wrong with Bush? What's wrong with Sugar Land? I mean, they got runways. Why we got to go to College Station?" So we wound up getting to College Station about it's probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. Then we had to get off the bus. The plane, get on the bus, and Lauren's car wasn't starting, so I had to jump her car. I think we wound up getting home about 5:45 after the game. But I got a text from Jaywan. I think it was either on the plane or the bus, and he was just thanking me for helping make him a man. Told me he loved me, how blessed he was to be here. And I just texted him back, "I am the blessed one." That's exactly the way I feel about having worked with Jaywan. Left his home when he was in the 8th grade in Virgin Islands, went to live with his mother's sister. Now, his mother's other sister son played for me at Oklahoma, Jabari Brown. Jabari's was the starting center on the Final Four team that we had at Oklahoma. So that Virgin Island family that Jaywan came from has been pretty good. But he is just a wonderful, naive, in a good way. Like JoJo is a little bit crazy in a good way. Jaywan's a little bit naive in a good way. First time I ever, once he got on, of course I get to know these kids recruiting, and then you guys find out about them later. But the first time I was doing a basketball camp, I was lecturing 120 kids. I'm right in the middle of the lecture. I mean, I'm in the key, right under the basket, right in the paint rather, and then kind of a half moon, half semicircle. I've got 120 kids in front of me. Jaywan wanders down the. This is over in the Fertitta Center. He wanders down the ramp to run onto the floor where our kids do for when we come out for the game. He looks around. It's like he's oblivious to what I'm doing. And he walks up to me, and he has his class schedule. So this was the first day. This was in June, summer school. His first day of classes. I'm right in the middle of a lecture. And he walks up to me and pulls his schedule out and wants to know if I know where this building is. So from that point forward, he had a new nickname, or we gave him a nickname. It was the Wanderer. He just wandered in, oblivious to what I was doing, and just said, "Coach, can you tell me where this building is?" I'm not even sure what I said, but from that point forward, that kid had my heart. I've always loved Jaywan. Senior night will be full of emotion, I'm sure. But the last 6 teams I've had, he's been a huge part of those teams. And I'm so happy for him, not just as a basketball player, but that he's stayed true to himself. He's never changed. He's still the Wanderer.
We have time for 2 more questions. If anybody's got them. First question, we'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City, please. Chris, go ahead.
Kelvin, just following up on that, how unusual is it to get a text like that when a guy is playing? I know a lot of guys reach out after they're done, but to get those kind of texts, while they're still there, and
on this team, it is not unusual. Jamal Shedd's mother and father came to town to watch their son play for the Toronto Raptors. They were going somewhere else, and they delayed it so they could come watch our team play. Fabian White's parents are season ticket holders. We're playing Iowa State. Quentin Grimes' mother and father is going to be at the game Saturday. And I could go down the list. That is not unusual in this program. This program's players' commitment to the program never leaves. That's why when you come back in the summer, some of my fondest days is watching Devontae, LaRon Barnes, and all those guys, all of our former players, Devin, Justin, Bryson, Dejan, I can go on and on and on. This program is really, really special. It's it's been built with love. These kids have a special connection. The former players, they stay true to this program, and it's shown through their parents and their parents' commitment. I can't tell you how many texts I get a month from Horace Walker, Jairus's father, or from Justin Gorham's mother. I mean, they all watch the games. They're still connected, and that's probably what I'm most proud of. Not the wins or what we wind up doing. You know, I have that memory and something that is really, really special to me that will always buoy me going forward. Not the thrill of winning something or the disappointment of losing something. That's not what coaches think about as much as you think. Having built this program and how we build it and the commitment these kids have to it and their families, and getting texts like that from Jaywan. I would get the same text from Marcus. I get the same text from Justin. These kids are, and it starts with our staff. We've got an awesome staff, and we have awesome kids, and I love them all.
Last question of the day, we'll go back to Joseph Duarte, please. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, along those lines, for the Baylor game, Reggie Cheney's family was at the game. I know you mentioned a bunch of players, but you've also stayed in contact with them. Any updates just on how they're doing and that relationship?
Yeah, the Baylor game was that on a Monday night?
Yes, it was.
Okay, Sunday, Reggie's mom and his little sister came by to see us. We stay in touch with her. You know, sometimes just a text saying, you know, was thinking about you today, goes a long way for a person, just to keep them connected. You know, Reggie will never be forgotten here. I see his picture all the time. I look at Jaywan sometimes. I say, Jaywan, what would Reggie do? If I really want to get under him, that's all I have to say. What would Reggie do? And you can ask Jaywan about that. But his mom and his little sister came in on Sunday. Lauren took him on a tour. That's why Lauren's the best. She handles so much of that stuff, and she's so awesome in making everybody feel a connection to this program. And then they came to the game. I told her that it was highlighted a year for me when I see her and Reggie's little sister come back. So it's awesome that she still feels a connection here. But that's just, I mean, I could sit here and talk about our program all day, but it's the parents too. We've had great parents, and they've expressed their appreciation for how we treated their son and how their son grew up from a boy to a man. I hear those stories all the time, and that's what I will appreciate the most. There will be no disappointment. I don't think that way. I'll be disappointed that we didn't do this or do that, but the appreciation of the kind of kids we've had and how they stay connected to each other. It's like they all have a badge. You know, we're Cougar basketball player. It means a lot to these kids. It means a lot to me.